Hello and welcome to another one from the Cronos Watcher, checking in on the charts today after the weekend on the Sunday the 27th, I believe it is currently, yes. As I said yesterday, or the day before, on the Friday, weekends tend to be a volatile time. Looks like we haven't seen too much downside in particular, mostly a bit of upside for most of what we're looking at. But certainly, weekends always exciting, a bit more volume, especially when we look at the weeklies and zoom out from everything. So let me get my stream organized here. That's why I'm kind of saying so much. There's a bit of technical issues in the background, but hopefully that's fixed now. And we're looking here at MMF first, so we'll jump back over. That can be our intro point. So MMF has had quite a lot of announcements over the weekend. The ecosystem is planning to do a lot. The devs are moving a lot on things, and there's quite a bit of excitement there. So definitely one to keep an eye on in the coming future, in the near future. So over the course of the weekend here on the Friday, you can see, was that the Friday or the Thursday? We had quite a large spike up there in price to kind of complete our recovery off of the scared dip down to 80 cents. You can see that was a 10% move there on the 24th. After the fact, we haven't seen so much price action, but we did see, just confirming what I was saying about the weekends, we did see quite a high amount of volume yesterday on the Saturday of 30 million. You can see up here in the corner of the screen when I'm not clicked on it, just this here, the volume will show up. So that's 30 million in volume on the daily. It's a serious sign, serious indicator of health. Also, though, because we didn't have such a massive price hike, an indication there's a lot of profit taking going on at the very same time. What we would look for here, if we zoom out now, is for those volume indicators to keep remaining healthy, keep the excitement and the fun happening in the ecosystem. As long as the news narratives continue for all of this, I believe we will start to see MMF continue to rise over the course of the weekly. There's all sorts of mechanics coming. They are introducing GameFi and everything that's just going crazier and crazier, living up to that name of mad hashtag mad for life, is it? So something to be excited about here, I think, from MMF. So if we look at the weekly, obviously an extremely encouraging trend here. Just really has no end in sight at the moment, does it? Even if you are on a daily chart and you're looking at a down week and thinking, oh God, always, I suppose, encouraging to zoom out here if in doubt, isn't it? If in doubt, zoom out. And if we went all the way back to the week starting the 3rd of January, you can see here we have a 430% rise from our prior lows to our current highest range. That would be about 121 cents, I think, ish. So 436% rise here. I suppose what you can safely say at this time is that, given how much has happened on Cronos, given how far we are in to the mainnet beta, and how much the Mad Meerkat team has achieved, I suppose we might be looking at a confirmed trend here. Of course, you could have said that back here in the week of the 14th of February, and you might have started to proverbially crap the backside thinking you were wrong, that we would have moved down again all the way to 45 cents. But since then, since that middle of February range, we've continued on, starting at 53 cents here, 21st of February, opening at 60 cents-ish the week after, continuing to 75 cents ish again week after that, and so on and so forth. So opening this week at 98 cents, and it looks like we might make a closing of 117. Of course, even within this huge green candle, don't forget that if we were to zoom in on this again, if we go back to this week, and this is our daily here, it's been quite erratic at the same time. So if you're in LP, that's a good thing for you as liquidity providers. massive spikes of percentage like this that do recover to the upside are an advantageous thing, because all it implies is volume for your LP tokens to be earning off the back of. So you can see here we had 44 million in volume on that day, in the 18th of March after Paddy's Day. A little panic dip down to 80 cents, and we're matching that kind of volume then on a day just like a Saturday, where there's more people available and things to do now in the ecosystem, more news to catch up on, all of this kind of thing. Of course, we have plenty of profit taking going on here. That's obvious by the amount of volume and the little wick we have from yesterday, the Saturday. But huge amount of volume just for the one day on the Mad Meerkat ecosystem. To me, that rise, that continuous rise we have seen in those volume indicators, you can see they're the little candles down the bottom here. What would you call them? I don't know, but it's a histogram anyway. Well, no, this is a histogram on the MACD, but certainly you can see here these spikes. Obviously, whenever they're red, indicating overall negative volume, green being the positive, we don't need to worry unless we see a huge amount of red volume spikes in a row like here. But all of that really was a healthy correction after our little dip here on the 18th of March, and you can see just people further selling, panicking, etc. But this recovery, again, very much implying the strength of the ecosystem. The only thing we would want to really worry about is if we see overall these volume candles start to taper off again, combined with sell pressure. That's always an indicator that things are getting boring in an ecosystem, essentially, or that there is no new money coming in all the time. So those are the only things at the moment that we'd want to watch for as indicators of any kind of a correction or downside for Mad Meerkat. As we zoom out again to the weekly, what did we open at again? 98 cents, and we're closing at 118. So even though we had a huge amount of volatility in there, seems like we're going to be confirming a pretty massive upside trend for Mad Meerkat here, and having solidified themselves as one of the main projects, as one of the largest dexes, I suppose we can be pretty safe to say now that our definite ranges to work within are anything from the 60 cents up to the 120 at the moment. I know that's 100%, but you have to be really careful here. I just think we have seen some support now for the downside, where we had a massive dip to 80 cents and it was bought back up almost immediately. So if you wanted to be safe, and not financial advice obviously, but looking ahead to the future, we would expect to see some generally continued upside here. If you wanted to be safe, the only thing I would say is to watch out for the profit taking at that $120 range. Anything back down to $1 and below to kind of like 80 cents there is pretty much fair game. We've seen that over that massive event on Patrick's Day and the 18th of March. So just want to be careful of as we move towards the 120 range. But again, a massive week for Mad Meerkat, 102 million in volume. We are currently, I should have stated that at the start of the video, what are we, 5, 6, 7 hours away from closing-ish. So we still have quite a bit of a way. It's only 6.5, but still quite a bit of a way to closing the weekly. But a huge week here, and 102 million in volume roughly as of making this video. So let's just hope at least for this continued upside for Mad Meerkat. I personally would watch for that dollar range again, and see does that get tested. Otherwise, if we're to move up above the 125, then we're going to start looking towards those 140 cents ranges. Again, anything psychologically significant like 140 and 150 cents over the course of the week. So probably expect some downside after the amount that we have corrected since the scare. So small bits of correction in between this range of 110 to 120 cents, but hopefully over the course of the week, continued upside trend here for MMF. So moving on to MMO, we've spent a whole 10 minutes on MMF there, but it's very important. There's a lot going on in the ecosystem. MMO really seeing the same thing. Ecosystem narrative, a lot of excitement around it. I suppose its mechanics are essentially deflationary, and we have hit that. I was going to say we hit that $10 range. We only went to 10.70, and you can see hugely psychologically significant again. We moved all the way back down to 10.29 over the course of yesterday. And upon closing, then upon closing yesterday, we opened at 10.28 and went all the way down so far to a low of 9.53, and it's looking like we're back up at 9.95. So you can see again that $10 range being hugely significant. A lot of profit taking happening there, but hopefully the narrative for the ecosystem continuing to build. And again, we can just hope for continued upside trend on MMO. My guess is if we see continued profit taking and continue to move and close below the $10 range, that tomorrow and through the course of the week we might be kind of teetering around it, simply by nature of the fact that it is psychologically significant. So we're looking to do something like we've done here before on MMO on the weekly we're looking at now. So you can see this candling opening here at the 7th of February all the way over to the 7th of March. So these 4 weekly candles overall, they're giving us sort of a range there. There's what percentage in it, a 28% range of, like, let's say the $5.30-ish dollars mark. So let's call it $5 to the $7.50. We want to see it print these similar kind of candles, find some support below at, I suppose, $8.50-ish, and be looking to test highs of kind of $12 over the next couple of weeks if we want to confirm sitting up at this $10 range. Anything again below that $8.50 mark and down to the $7.50 and above range, moving in there, you'd want to expect some continued downside. For the moment, I suppose we could confirm hopefully some support here at about $6.50 and $5 in between. That would be a very safe range, maybe a place to be buying the dip at some stage. So we're looking to again kind of print the same sort of pattern here that we did after this initial run up from the 10th of January to the 31st, the end of the month. We sort of settled then from February to March, very roughly again a 30% range within all of what I'm saying here. But we seemed to find some resistance, or to find some support and touch some resistance before we moved off again. So essentially what we want to do in the weekly here now is for the next month on MMO, print that same kind of range between $8.50 and $12.50, and hopefully be doing another uptrend then after that. That would be the hopium again. One to watch for is the $8.50 downside. Anywhere below $8 would be a very shaky territory, because again, people will be taking profits. People are earning this token as rewards in the Mad Meerkat optimizer vaults and things. So although it's valuable by nature of it being rewarded to people and therefore is technically being earned, once that token is sold, its value drops again, just like anything else. So it's not going to be an infinite rise up. Again, if we saw any kind of range down to that $7.50 mark, you might see massive sales there if we were to correct from here, because we have quite a lot of new money, I am guessing, in here, given the news and the narrative. So be careful of the downside to $8.50, $8, hoping to test up to $12 over the course of the week, and just again teeter around this range now for a month or so for MMO would be a nice safe option. If we were to continue this upside so massively, may end up in some further downside towards the end, when we're looking out towards the summer and things like that. Often what goes up must come down. So hoping here for a bit of settling around this $10 range, find some new resistance over the course of the month for MMO. But that's our weekly here, opened at 8.44, looking to close at 9.98, and again our high being of 10.67. So in the next week looking to settle around that range and move off it against the $11 and $12. So moving on here, we have Sky. We're on 13 minutes already. I'm rambling, but this is the weekly, so it's a good one to catch up on. Sky has now seemed to correct off the back of the move that we were talking about over the last few days. You can see that we have seemed to print some lower highs on the daily just over the last 4 days, just to look at how it's settling. At the same time, our lows are also printing a little higher, so we might just be seeing a settling in volume, a cool off for Sky. Hopefully a lot of the profit that is desired has been taken already. You can see these massive wicks here indicating a large amount of sell volume, even within the FOMO excitement that has been going on over the past couple of days. But you can see it's quite a large sell range here at the moment, from 15.29 all the way up to 17.24 is kind of the range that we're looking at settling within. I suppose there is danger in the downside anywhere from kind of 1500 and below. If we move back towards that point, that might have been a psychologically significant point, that we had a lot of new money coming into the ecosystem, coming into dark crypto at that time. So we want to be careful of that. If we move down towards the $1,500 range, I would expect further correction below that, just due to paper hands and money moving back out after coming in over the course of somewhere over these candles here. You might say to yourself, why would you do that? But of course, look at how attractive it looks, moving all the way up there. What is that? Since the 15th of March now that we've sort of completed the move was 115%. So we're seeing it here now. We're seeing the volume cool off in Sky, and we are also seeing ourselves print some lower highs. As long as we can make sure that those lows remain higher also, hopefully we're just seeing a cool off, a bit of a settling, and that we will manage to find our feet around 1500 somewhere. Let's have a look back on the daily, see if we can kind of show that happening elsewhere. You can see here some of its downside corrective moves since it started to move back upwards properly. Let's make this a little bigger for you here. So what do we have here on the 2nd of March? We did a corrective move down over the course of about 4 days, which was 43%. So one to very much be careful of that. Similar moves could be replicated here. Now, the only thing is that we have so much more new money in here. These are staking systems. They are liquidity pools, etc. A lot of that money is locked, or at least is incentivized to be locked. So that's the only thing you might be able to rely on as I suppose a bit of hopium for finding support around $1,500. But certainly Sky is one that's very hot at the moment, sort of starting to form a downtrend in its cool off there on the daily. So definitely want to be careful of at the moment. I believe we would have started our sort of corrective move, looking to cool off and hopefully find some support around that $1,500 range. Again, it's hilarious, but when we zoom out on the weekly, we just got a big, huge U shape here off the ICO. That's all that is. One very encouraging statistic I suppose you could point to is the fact that now we have steadily increasing volume on the weekly, which is showing increased interest in the platform, dwarfed by some of the others we know, of course. 12 million in the last week alone, 7.5, and then 5 million the week before that. So if we're looking over the last month, we've roughly what are we doing? Roughly tripled ish. We're looking at tripling up on volume over the course of 3 weeks. So that is pretty solid going. It looks like we might have confirmed some ecosystem narrative, some excitement around it, locked up a lot of liquidity, and here we go from here. But that is obviously the hopium. I personally would be looking for Sky to correct down around that $1,500 range and find some support there over the course of the week, much like we were discussing with MMO. That is definitely our safer play, safer move. For yourself, even to be keeping an eye at that $1,500 range and what happens if we move towards it again. If we hit the 1750, we would be looking then to touch that 2000 and find some upside there. Obviously, within all of these weekly candles, there can be a huge amount of volatility. Just in the week before alone, our opening was 810 and we closed at 1245, but within that, our low was also 1796 and a high of 1357. So we can move all over the place during a week. But again, Sky sort of backing up and confirming our overall ecosystem narrative. A bit of an uptrend forming here. I suppose they wouldn't be here. We wouldn't talk about them seriously. But real investors, was there a longer chart printed here, would see this as a very encouraging trend. Again, we're so new in DeFi, you can't rely on anything. Certainly do your own research. Definitely not financial advice, but Sky seeming to confirm its move into the, I suppose, forefront of the ecosystem. Again, as the type of project it is, which you should look into. Again, I hate to call things forks that don't seem to truly be. They're not a cut, copy and paste, in all fairness to them. But again, some Tomb-esque mechanics, a lot of very rewarding stuff there if you're into the LP and the farming and things like that. And I'm not selling it. The only reason I'm saying that is that this is what is leading to the 12 million in volume this week, which has moved all the way from 4.9 over the course of a week, by the way. At the end of February there, that last week in February was only 4.9 in volume, whereas the first week in March even. But very important to keep an eye on that as the ecosystem grows now. If we see those volume metrics tick up and find some support again for themselves, even just the volume numbers, whatever about the price, then we can rely on the price staying stable around that $1,500 mark during the week. So that's what you want to watch there for Sky, as well as the volume, ecosystem narrative, even social engagement. While this kind of an uptrend is happening, you want to know, is it people buying the rumor? Are people, buying the news, essentially? Because you want to watch out for the sell then too. But again, haven't had a huge amount of pressure so much as we had since February. So hopefully we are confirming a very serious upside and continued move here for Sky. Again, the $1,500 one, just to keep a really that $1,500 mark is one to keep a really close eye on to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, because of course for these kinds of moves upwards to continue, of what percentage have we got here in 3 weeks? 236%. In order for that to continue, the excitement needs to be the same. The amount of new money needs to be the same. That is pretty unrealistic to expect, considering we have a lot of excitement already has happened around Cronos, a lot of news going out about it. I know it will continue, but we are definitely due some cool-offs in some of the project. Hopefully others also don't get affected by the mad meerkat ecosystem madness. I'm trying to think of another word for that. But again, Sky, for the moment, extremely encouraging statistics on the weekly, and we'll keep an eye and check in over the course of the week. So moving on here, we're already getting on in time. I just want to have a quick look at NESS. It's not one to stretch out to the weekly, but this is the Darkness Share token. Again, one to look into, do DYOR, and absolutely not financial advice, all of that stuff. But we've continued to see this cool off now after excitement in NESS. I suppose our only encouraging sign is that over the course of 6 days, a week, and etc., after we saw those 55 cents lows, we've continued to just slowly but surely tick upwards. So we're watching out for that 60 cents range at the moment during the next week, but waiting on some ecosystem narrative and someone's excitement around the Darkness Share token. Interested myself as I suppose a Frax inspired project. I don't want to call it a fork. I hope it isn't a direct fork. Do your own research. Absolutely not financial advice, but as a revenue and share token tend to become quite popular quite quickly in DeFi. Perhaps we will see some more narrative around this token as they announce their boardroom. Obviously, once that announcement comes out, we expect to see some sell the news behavior. So we'll be looking to test those upside ranges, hopefully of 63 to 65 cents on NESS over the course of the next week. Very quiet for the moment, very tame, and hasn't moved a huge amount to the downside. The only, I suppose, slightly worrying thing we might have is a few days before here when we hit those 65 cents ranges before, which we haven't seen. We've now on the 26th yesterday, which is a weekend, huge amount of volume in comparison, 408k. Well, I suppose we had 305. What do we have? 436. So even again, I mean, NESS proving itself. Not that it's not that popular. It's just not got a lot of excitement around it at the moment. And I wonder myself, just for a US dollar swap platform, there's so much happening around that. Maybe what they plan to do to further incentivize people to engage with the platform. But for now, we would just want to watch out for any sell pressure given boredom in the ecosystem. And we want to test those upside ranges of 65 cents soon in order to see continued excitement about the token itself. So waiting on news from the Dark Crypto project itself, see where this is moving. But interesting all the same. We've just seen a cool off in volume and kind of settling here around the 60 cents range. So let's see what happens with that over the course of the next week. So just want to check in on our old buddy, old pal, Cronos. Not doing too well over the course of the weekend. I was a little excited myself yesterday. Excited for you guys. Thought we might see a little a bit of uptrend there with it was a Friday, excuse me. A 691k in volume in a single day, positive volume, opening at 528. It's hard for me to see there. Opening at 528. And the close was at 750. So it looked like we were going to do some sort of massive turnaround off the back of the announcements made by the project. Now, I wonder, was there project money involved here, maybe buying back in and things like that? Not in a conspiratorial sense, as in the project buying back out of the investments they had made and things like that. That being how the node projects work. They're repatriating their profits from elsewhere, essentially. So I'm wondering, did that have something to do with that? But I know that the claim tax also changed. So a lot of people would have sold during these days here, running up to the claim tax going back to the way it was. And then, of course, a combination of a lack of selling maybe and some project buybacks. But you can see over the last 2 days here now, we've made it down again off the back of that. So, I mean, look, on a reward token, on a node project, the sell pressure is obviously always going to be huge. But at the moment, we are not seeing a lot of new volume, I believe. I think we may see some more as we move down into that $250 range, because that will be seen as a bargain, essentially, to get in on the project, because hopefully at the moment the ecosystem's narrative isn't actually that negative. It had some bad downside. It had its struggles like any node project, really. But given the fact that a founding member / whatever team still is there, are still active, they're very engaged with the community, they're reassuring them of what they're doing and what they plan to do, things like that, we may see some buyback in at that point of about $250. I believe that's just a personal opinion, but that would be the next range I'm sort of looking to test at the moment. We'll see what happens tomorrow and over the course of the rest of the week. But if we move anywhere below that $5 range again and start to hit into the 4 something very easily, my next downside target would be $250, unfortunately. I just see it with the sell pressure, and even though there is lots of positive news for the community themselves, just don't see a lot of new money rushing in right now. And I see there being time for the project requiring time to build and regroup and provide what it needs to its community. So we'll keep an eye on this now, but I'm expecting some continued downside. And when we zoom out to the weekly here, it sort of gives that indication. It shows how much it can move within a week and also where we might possibly be moving. So indeed, the next downside target for me being that $250 range. It also happens to be right around roughly where it had its initial reboot, sort of rerun. You can see that the project was literally out for 3 weeks. It seems it didn't shout about itself too much and things like that. So there's a lot of buy-in, obviously a lot of excitement around the project. People begin to start to take profits. And I presume word starts spreading. This is just guess, but if you're to look at it and guess at how it all played out, people started selling their profits and telling others. And here it went, jumping into Discords and saying, I just got paid 300 quid for a day or whatever because I compounded for the last 3 weeks, and then off it took all the way up to $40.50 was the high in the end. And that just took 2 weeks, 14 days. So given that the volume is slowed down now, that everything is slowed down a bit, the sell pressure, the narrative, etc., everyone's calmed down. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here. I'm watching personally, unfortunately, for that $250 downside. The hopium being at the same time that we can sort of reclaim whatever positive volume led to this high here the day before yesterday of 750. So that would be a nice range to move back up to for the project, because then it's obviously getting sort of close to that $10, that hopeful range of, we're taking back off, reminiscent of our $50 highs, So again, most of it with the DeFi stuff, for me anyway, I like to think about it psychologically. I like to think, how would that price affect me if I saw it, on a fresh off work or whatever, signing into DeFi for the weekend? What am I going to do in reaction to this, So I do see us continuing towards the 250. If we can just settle here, if Cronos can settle off a bit, the sell pressure can reduce a little. Hopefully there's a desire for people to continue to compound, and now that the project is going to be building things in the background, they'll kind of, reflect that by compounding and hoping towards that better, brighter future of a $10 or $20 Cronos again. So that's the hopium, that we just see the volume drop right off, everything calms down, and we sort of do our little zigzags here around that $5 range. That would be a much nicer narrative, of course, for all of the folks over Cronos, because that was a very difficult trend for a lot of people to go through if they did buy in anywhere near that all-time high. So you can rest assured that the volume is going to continue to drop off here, that the sell pressure will reduce as more people see the light of compounding rather than taking profits immediately, and look forward to a better time, fingers crossed. So downside expected of 250, hopium being we sort of settle here around the $5 and move a little back up. So fingers crossed for that at the same time. So right at the end here, I just wanted to cover SVN real quick as well. I'm going to stay quiet about this, but maybe we'll talk about it. I'm trying to figure it. I'm trying to look at, and I can't grasp for myself what about this as a seniorage project might be causing some sort of a pattern. I'm just going to reset this here, and then we'll do the little baby zoom, because that's much easier. What might lead to a pattern of corrections on a weekly basis, essentially? Is it something to do with, reward times or something like that? Not sure myself, can't find an actual reason, but I have drawn some LARP lines on another chart just in hopium, wondering, might we see what I was talking about? It's just fun. It's just interesting to see, can you spot that kind of thing happening in a DeFi project that's so new, has nothing statistical to back it up in any way, shape or form? But are you spotting a pattern? So what I said the last time was, if we took from even after the ICO madness here, what's this? Let's draw it real roughly over the course of, that's 8 days again here. So let's click on this one and move down again. That would be 7 days here. And then let's click at the bottom of this one and let's move across there. You can see a sort of pattern emerging, sort of. Now, I wonder, is this again more psychological, in that literally it's based on just how the buy and sell pressure went based on weekends and taking profits over the course of the introduction of the project? But I'm wondering, are we seeing a confirmation of what I was pointing out there? So we'll stay quiet about it for now. All of you who watch, the few viewers who do check in, if you are checking in for the SVN, absolutely. Oh, that's my / absolutely NFA. Completely and utterly need to DYOR. Do your own research, and it's not financial advice. But Over the last 2 days, we've seen 25% up move, and we've had quite a lot of sort of just ranging volume here, so sort of looking like finding some kind of resistance, and then another little pop off would be the hopium today and so you're looking at a Sunday here, a Saturday, and that's a Friday. So that to me, I know this might sound silly now, but that to me looks like people coming into DeFi on Friday evening, oh no, sell, because SVN dropped off the face of the earth. And now we're seeing that increased buy pressure back towards through the week. I'm laughing because, you just don't know what the hell all of this is. And at the end of the day as well, like as we view the stream, you can see like we've got enough whales going on here, our own mini whales kind of thing. But that's a huge sign of health as well for anyone who's in LP or farming or anything like that. The volume on these is just massive, and I wonder myself about the project buying in and buying out and causing volume and everything like that. Maybe bots, whatever, each to their own. But you can see big buys and sells here of like 10 grand, 15 grand, 34k just as we're streaming there. So it's an encouraging sign, but I'm wondering what that is. Is it a pattern for a start, and is it just a sort of a buy sell wave on a senior urge token? Be interesting to know if that was something we had spotted here, and if others have. If you're watching this and you do happen to be interested, drop it in Twitter or jump into the comments if you know exactly what that pattern is, if there is one again. So what you'd want to do to confirm this is see us move up. So where do we want to go to? If we're predicting the right thing, then let's call it from here, this candle, that one in the middle there. Then we want to move out by only this much. So it's not really a pattern. It's definitely not weekly or anything like that. But certainly I think it's going to take us at least, kind of the guts of another week and a bit, maybe, to move back up to those prior highs of the $2. Having said that, a day like the 10th of March can really make you eat your words in a statement like that, where we moved 47% in a single day. Just a big, massive narrative buying day, I suppose. So let's just see, out of interest, what happens here with SVN Savannah. If we zoom out to the week, you can see, again, quite hilarious because we're in DeFi. Basically, that sort of pattern or trend kind of being confirmed here. We had a massive down week after the ICO. We had massive spikes in that week. We had a little up week here, then we had an up week here, down week here, up week here. So let's see where those averages lie, where the next sort of lower highs land themselves. We can watch that too, but where the next higher lows land themselves over the course of the week. If we can still keep closing dailies above levels as we move throughout, then that might be just the pattern. It's literally just buy and sell pressure. Senior Rich token, it gives you, this is the reward token of said Senior Rich platform, so it's giving rewards. So it's being built up and sold off and built up, but not exactly sure, is that the reason, or is it a pattern? Again, it might just be funny to look out in a couple of months, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. They're all green, maybe they're all going up, but it would be funny to just see red, green, red, green, red, green here in a couple of months' time, wouldn't it? And have played those moves better again, if you possibly could. But just an interesting bit of hopium, bit of bull, really. There's nothing to it. It's not statistical. There's no probability here. So just one to keep an eye on, put on record. Bit of fun. From wrong, I'm wrong. We'll see what happens. But if you did check in for this much of the stream, thank you very much for joining. I'm just checking all my settings now and everything. We will be back again tomorrow. I'm thinking about changing it to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, maybe, just to get some more fun price action. Wouldn't realize to yourself how much it eats up then doing a video every day too. So might be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's still spread it out with all of the good folks who are sharing things out for me and everything. So if you did join again and stayed for the whole thing, thank you very much. And check in with you tomorrow. We'll see, will we do Tuesday or more just kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and get some project videos done as well. I hope you might have enjoyed it, the loaded notes video. If you did see it, do some more stuff like that over the coming weeks, definitely. And there's some very interesting things to cover. I'm certainly going to do some opinion pieces on Mad Meerkat and that in the coming week. There's some interesting things to cover, shall we say. So stay tuned for all of that. And for now, thank you and goodbye from the Cronos Watcher. See you tomorrow.